Lieutenant Kayla Miller with Michiana Crime Stoppers joining us now. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Christine? Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, so far so good. Can't complain. But now I get to talk to you and we get to highlight a case, which I'm so excited about. I love that people are like listening and watching these segments. So hopefully we're getting all the word out that we can because it's so important.
Yes, I know. I've done some follow up with families, and they're just so appreciative that we're doing these segments. They are seeing the segments on social media. So, again, it's if nothing else, we're making sure that our community knows that they are not forgotten, and we have another sad story to talk about today.
Yeah, this one happened, what, just over a year ago.
Yes, we're talking about March 16th, 2021. It was around 8:50 at night. South Bend Police Department was called to the area of Eddy and Jefferson for a drive-by shooting. When officers arrived, they actually found a vehicle had collided with a tree. Upon further investigations, they found that 28-year-old Chanel Neal was inside that car that had crashed, and she was suffering from gunshot wounds. They did attempt to resuscitate her, and unfortunately, she died on scene. There was a passenger with her, a male passenger, who also sustained gunshot wounds that were non life threatening. So ultimately, two people were injured, and unfortunately, Chanel lost her life in this incident.
Wow. So really you don't have any video or anything that you know of at this point, right? So it's not like we can see the car that drove by this vehicle.
No, this case was initially investigated by the Metro Homicide Unit. And then as of January 1st of this year, this case was turned over to the South Bend Police Department Violent Crimes Unit. What we know so far is that there were several people out in that area. I mean, it's 9 o'clock at night. It was not something that was overly late. There was actually other people involved in the crashes as well because Chanel's vehicle struck some other cars. And what we know is that Chanel was headed westbound on Jefferson towards Eddy Street. She was getting ready to make a left-hand turn on Eddy Street when a car pulled up next to them and opened fire on Chanel's vehicle. Chanel's car, she kind of went forward a little bit then, and at that point struck the car in front of her, and then ultimately crossed over those westbound lanes of Jefferson and struck a tree on the southeast corner of Jefferson and Eddy Street. The suspect vehicle then fled the scene. There's some different descriptions. Some witnesses saw a light color car fleeing the area very quickly. There's also reports of an SUV that took off in a frenzy as well. So police are still working to figure out which one of those cars, if either one of them, that took off from the scene is our shooters.
But it sounds like at least somebody was there. I mean, obviously
Yes.
minus the shooter, but someone else was there. It seems like that may know something.
Yes, and so that's what gives us hope when we're looking at these cases is that, this isn't one where there's nobody around, nobody saw anything. We know that there's people there, and it's possibility that after the fact of those that were there and have been interviewed initially, maybe something's come back to the forefront of your minds. It's been a year now. You've had time to kind of process what you were a part of. It could have been people that were just driving through the area that didn't realize what was going on. Maybe
Yeah.
they saw something, maybe they saw a car, things like that. So we definitely have some great opportunity for people to come forward. And as you know, and we talk about every time, is that your tips to Michiana Crime Stoppers are anonymous. So if it's something that you're afraid to talk to police about, or you're just not sure if the information is valid, you can always contact the police department, the detective bureau, and leave a message there. But if you want to remain anonymous, Michiana Crime Stoppers is the place to go.
Do we know why they were in that area? Were they coming from somewhere? Were they, did they have, was this one of those scenarios where, it was like a road rage incident turned into a shoot? I don't want to throw things out there because you're still investigating, but do we have any context as to like how this may have started or where they were coming from?
So nothing at this point indicates that it was road rage or just, some crazy person driving around. Everything does indicate that there was some sort of targeted. Now, that doesn't mean that it was targeted for Chanel. Again, she did have a passenger with her. And so at this point, it does appear that it is an isolated incident.
Okay. Okay. And you said passenger was struck as well. Their condition?
Non-life threatening. They've recovered from their injuries.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully that avenue is at least helpful to kind of get some more idea. But she was a mom, right?
She was. Chanel was only 28 when she passed away, and when her life was taken from her. That's the truth of it. She didn't. This wasn't just a tragic car accident. This was someone who is responsible, and we need to work to hold them accountable for it. But Chanel was 28. She had a little boy named Elijah. I talked to Chanel's mom and her father both, and she was a devoted mom to Elijah. She loved that little boy. She had a very strong family bond with her family. She had three sisters and three brothers, very close relationship with her nieces. Again, just so tragic of a life that was just so full and young. Everyone liked her. One of the things that I think is incredibly sweet is that her mother said that even though she was beautiful on the outside, it was the inner beauty that was the most stunning. Just a
Mm,
good spirit. Said that she was outgoing and caring. And she had a great voice. They loved to hear her sing and just talk. And she was the local girl. She was right here from South Bend. She attended Clay High School, born and raised. And so, it's just so tragic when we have these cases and we're talking about these young lives. And I know we've talked about it before, but it's the trickle down effect from this trauma. She's got siblings, she has parents that are still grieving the loss of their child, but now there's this little boy who has to grow up without his mother, and it breaks my heart every time.
we have been following that six vehicle crash on the toll road that happened last week. And Sergeant Ted Bonner was on, and he said that he felt like, getting this feeling that we've just kind of forgotten the importance of like life, right? The value of a life. And I just, every time I hear these cases, that's really how I feel. Like it's so sad. And I can't even imagine what that family's going through. But this is why Michiana Crime Stoppers is around. So people can realize her life matters. Her family getting answers matters. Like she was valued and she deserves answers. And we just can't keep kind of going through life like this. It just really isn't fair.
It's not. And, I unfortunately have to talk with a lot of families that are going
Yeah.
through this type of pain and understanding it a little bit from my own family's pain.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any easier. But it's something that I think there's comfort, at least for me, there's always comfort in knowing that they're not forgotten and that they did matter and they still do matter. They still
Yeah.
very much matter to us. And so knowing that we have an organization, we have a program that's in place with Michiana Crime Stoppers that gets the story of who these victims were, who there. It's not just another case number. It's not just another headline in the papers or the news. It's this person mattered. There's
Yeah.
family, and they deserve to know why this happened to their loved one.
Yeah.
Why would someone drive up next to Chanel's car, open fire on whoever was in there? Why would they do that? And then drive away uh, and essentially go this last year and what, 3 months now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and living their life. It's not fair.
And we always talk about this. There are so many different ways for you to provide information. Talk a little bit about that. And again, this falls in line with that $2,500 reward, up to $2,500 for information that leads to the arrest or solving of this case.
Yeah, so just to again make that statement so prominent is, even though this case took place at a time when the reward was up to $1,000, since January 1st, every single unsolved homicide case is eligible for a $2,500 reward. So that includes this case as well. And so anonymous tips can be taken 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it doesn't matter when it is. You can call in to Michiana Crime Stoppers at 574-288-STOP or 800-342-STOP. If it is after our business hours, if you just let the phone ring, I think it's 2 times, and then you will actually get the machine that says, if you want to leave a tip, press 1. And then if you hit 1, you will get a live person. So we have a call center that handles all of our calls. So you will actually get to talk to a real human being and leave your tip. Again, all tips are anonymous. If you prefer, you can use your smartphone and go to p3tips.com/203, or you can download the P3 Tips app. Again, IP addresses, telephone numbers, none of that is tracked. It is completely anonymous from start to finish. You must, though, this is very important, you must keep your tip number and keep that private. You don't want to share that with anyone because then they'll know what your tip number is and essentially they could claim your reward. So keep that private. That is how you can check on your tip to see if it's eligible for a reward, as well as give further information if something else pops up that you think of, or something else that you can share. But it's really important that you keep that tip number.
Well, we have not forgotten this case. We're going to keep talking about it. I know you're going to keep working on it. Any information, please reach out. This family deserves some answers. And we really hope that some tips come in for this case.
Absolutely.